Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Matt. I am your host, Matt Taylor. Today I'm going to share with you 10 easy quick bread recipes. Yummy. I love quick bread. So the difference between quick bread and normal bread is quick bread doesn't have any yeast and it's a batter and not a dough. And what distinguishes it between a cake is oftentimes quick bread has less fat and less sugar added to it, and it's more dense than a cake. But if you're not familiar with quick bread, especially people in other countries, you might think that these are cakes, but they're not. Super easy to do, so delicious, something for everyone. If I can do it, you can do it. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. Let's get started. First up, we have cinnamon bread. Oh yeah, I love cinnamon, and I love cinnamon in bread. This recipe is awesome. Let's begin with one large egg, and we'll just give that a whisk. And then we will add 1 cup of milk, and I am using whole milk, but you could use 1%, 2%. You could also use almond milk. 1/4 cup of oil. This is canola oil, but you can use vegetable oil, coconut oil, and then I have 1/3 cup of sour cream. The sour cream is optional. It helps to make it a little bit more moist. And if you like your quick breads to be moist, then add the sour cream. If you don't necessarily want them to be that moist or don't care or don't have the sour cream, then don't worry about it and you can leave it out. You don't need to make a special trip to the grocery store to get sour cream, but if you have it on hand, use it. Give that a good whisk. And now we're going to add 1 cup of white granulated sugar. Whisk that in. Also, at this point, preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 Celsius. We can set this aside. And then here in this bowl, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I will add 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. If you don't have the baking powder, you could use 1 teaspoon of baking soda instead. Take the whisk and we'll whisk this up. And you may sift those ingredients together if you like. Bring this bowl back, and then we will add the flour, about half of it at a time. All right, that's mixed. Put in the other half of that. All right, so we just use that whisk and just get it to where it's barely combined. I don't normally use a mixer because it's really easy to overmix the batter and we really don't want to do that. And now I have 1/3 cup of white granulated sugar and I have a tablespoon of cinnamon. We'll mix that together. I usually just use a little fork and mix this together. All right, perfect. And then what we do, take a 5x9-inch bread pan, and then I put some shortening all around it on the bottom and the sides and a little bit of flour, and then you just go around the edges and just tap the flour all around so it gets covered. I don't like it when my bread sticks to the pan. So I always do that. Sometimes it's a little bit overkill, but I always like to err on the side of caution. Sometimes just using a light kitchen spray will work fine as well. And now we will take our batter and we'll put about half of it in there. And then we'll come in with that cinnamon and sugar. And we'll just get that all on the top there. Sprinkle it all on top. Awesome. And I'll come back in with the rest of this and put that on there. Scraping the sides of the bowl, make sure we get it all in there. And then we'll just take a knife like this, butter knife, and just do a little zigzag like that and just kind of swirl it around. Almost like we're doing like a marbling technique. And you'll have some cinnamon that comes up the sides and on the top a little bit. That's totally fine. And then we'll bake this in the oven. Once again, 350 Fahrenheit, 176 Celsius. And we'll bake it for 45 to 55 minutes until when you poke it with a toothpick, the toothpick comes out clean. On to that step. And when it comes out of the oven, it'll look something like this. Let it cool in the pan for about 10-15 minutes and then we will remove it. All right, after it has cooled about 10 minutes, we'll take a little cake spatula here. We'll run it along the edges. Not totally necessary because we already greased it, but just helps to loosen it a little bit. Then we can just, comes right out of the pan, really easy. And we'll just let it cool the rest of the way before cutting into it. All right, I've let it cool a little bit. It's still kind of warm and that's okay. You can serve it warm as well if you want. I want to cut into this. Oh yeah, and show you what it looks like on the inside. Doesn't that look really cool? Got the swirl of the cinnamon and sugar in there. So cool. And you can eat it plain or put some butter on there, whatever you like to do. Time for me to dive into this. Oh yeah, I got a slice right here with some butter on it. Oh yeah. Next up, we have chocolate bread. This is so yummy. If you love chocolate and you love bread, this bread is for you. First, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 Celsius with a rack in the middle position. Also, down below the video in the description box, you'll find the list of the ingredients along with the amounts. So we start with a large bowl and we are going to add in 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, and then 1 cup of white granulated sugar. And then with a hand mixer or stand mixer, let's blend that together. Perfect. Now let's add in our 2 large eggs. Mix again. Give the sides a good scrape with your spatula. All right, and since we don't want to overmix our bread batter here, we're going to be done with our beaters. And now we are just going to be stirring in all the rest of the ingredients, folding them in. Let's add our buttermilk. This is 1 cup of buttermilk. Just until all combined. And now we just need to add in our dry ingredients. Start with our flour, 1 3/4 cups of flour, and I'm using a sifter. It's okay if it goes over the sides. Don't worry about that. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and the star of our dish, 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. You really want to use a sifter or a sieve or something with your cocoa powder because it tends to be kind of lumpy. Now let's just sift it in. Shake the sides. Tap the sides. And then you might have some chunks left over. Just go in there and push them with your knuckles if your hands are clean. Or you could use like the back of your spoon and just push those remaining clumps down. Great. Now let's just fold these ingredients in there, stir and fold. You don't have to get too technical with this technique. We just want all the dry ingredients to be well combined and moistened. Also, if you want to add in some like walnuts or pecans or something like that, now is the time when you would add those as well. Well, there we go. Our chocolate bread batter is ready to go. Now we take a 5x9 bread pan and let's pour in our batter. And I greased the bottom of it with some shortening. You could use butter as well, or use some kitchen spray. And then you can come in here and smooth it out if you want. You don't really need to. Something like that's fine. And now we're gonna bake this in the oven, middle position, for 55 to 60 minutes. And then at about the 45-50 minute mark, check it with a toothpick. And then you're gonna bake it, continue to bake it like 5-minute increments until the toothpick comes out clean. On to that step. And when it comes out of the oven, it'll look something like this. Now we let it just cool in its pan for about 15 minutes to 20 minutes, and then we'll take it out of the pan and put it on a wire rack to cool completely. All right, it's been about 15 minutes. Just take it out of the pan here. Comes right out. That's awesome. Now just let it cool completely before serving it up. All right, I can't wait any longer. I'm gonna cut into this. Oh yeah. And that's what it looks on the inside. Yummy. Next we have coconut bread. If you love coconut and you love bread, you might want to try this recipe. First, preheat the oven to 325 degrees or 162 Celsius. And now we will take a large bowl and we will put in our 4 large eggs. And I'm going to beat these a little bit with a hand mixer. Alright, we don't have to do it too much. And then we'll add our softened butter. This is 1 cup of butter. And if you forget to soften it, you can just put it in the microwave on like the defrost mode for a little bit. And if it melts a little bit, don't worry about it. Add in our 2 cups of sugar, 1 tablespoon of coconut flavoring, and then our 1 cup of coconut flakes. These are unsweetened coconut flakes, but you can use sweetened coconut flakes. And then 1 cup of buttermilk. Oh yeah, the buttermilk is going to help to make it a little more moist, and also the acid is going to react with the baking soda. And now let's mix these all together. All right, great. We'll just give it a good scrape. Another mix. Fantastic. I'm just going to set this aside for a bit. And now we take 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Add in 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And we will give it a good whisk. All right. We will come back over to our main bowl here. And we're going to add in our flour mixture, and just about 1/3 of it at a time. And scrape the sides. Continue on with more of the flour. Give the sides a good scrape. Rest of that flour mixture. give the sides a scrape one last time. And at this point, I'll just remove the beaters and just finish the last little mix with my spatula here. Okay, and then I have 2 5x9 bread pans here, but you could use the medium size, like 4 of the medium ones, or 6 to 8 of the small bread pans. And then we're going to just divide this in half in between both of these. And I grease these pans with shortening. And then I just kind of put some in this one and come over to this one. So I'm trying to get just an equal amount in both of these. And you want it to be, just slightly over half full. Of course, it doesn't matter too much how full. You just don't want to go too full, because they will rise a bit when they bake. And then we'll just spread this out a little bit. Now we bake these in the oven, once again, 325 Fahrenheit, 162 Celsius, middle rack position, and we will bake them for about 40 minutes or till when you poke them with a toothpick comes out clean. On to that step. When you have about 10 minutes left on the bread while it's in the oven, we're going to make our warm or hot glaze. And you can make whatever kind of glaze that you want, or just leave the glaze off altogether. But what I'm going to show you is a hot glaze, and it's pretty cool. So we are going to start with 1/3 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of coconut flavor, 1 1/2 cups of sugar, and then 3 tablespoons of butter. And we'll take this over to the stovetop, and we'll just stir and heat it up, medium heat, until it comes to a boil. All right, here we are over at the stovetop. And like I mentioned, you can make a traditional glaze if you want, with powdered sugar, butter, and milk. But this is something different. This type of glaze I haven't shown on my show yet, so that's why I'm going to do this one. Okay, once it gets like this, it's going to be all bubbly like this. We are done, and we can take it off the heat. Just turn the heat off, and we will remove it from the heat. And when they come out of the oven, they'll look something like this, nice and golden brown around the edges and lighter in the middle. And what you're going to do, this might seem a little weird, but we're going to take a wooden skewer and we're going to poke these all over the place. And you can use like a steak fork as well. All right, and now we are going to pour this glaze all over the top. And what will happen is the glaze will fall through those holes and kind of inject itself into the bread. That's why you want your glaze to be hot, because it'll be more liquidy and it'll help it to get into those holes. And you could totally skip this step and just make a traditional glaze if you want. Totally up to you. And then we just let it sit for about 5 minutes. Also, I wanted to mention that since these were in the larger pans, this took about 55 minutes to bake completely. The really small pans, those are going to only take about 40 minutes. And once they've cooled for a bit, we want to take them out of the pan and then put them on a wire rack. Or if you're giving them as a gift, just leave them in their aluminum pans. You can do that as well. After you go around the edges with your cake spatula, we'll just take it out. And there we go. Now, one thing that you might see on the bottom here, if you can see there's a little bit that got stuck to the bottom. I didn't grease it well enough. One way to ensure that the bottom does not stick is to lay down some shortening and then do a rectangle piece of parchment paper, and it'll solve that problem and it'll come right out. All right? Now we'll just let this cool completely before diving into it. Oh yeah. Now it's finally time to cut into this. I'm going to get a nice big piece here. Oh yeah, look at that. So yummy. And number 4 is soda bread. Soda bread is a classic bread. It's been around for ages, really easy to make. Begin by preheating the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, or it's right around 205 Celsius. I have 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of white granulated sugar. If you want it more sweet, add an extra tablespoon. If you want it a little bit less sweet, then reduce it by a tablespoon. 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And that is where the name soda bread comes from. The baking soda is going to provide a lot of the leavening along with the baking powder. Now I'm going to take a whisk and we'll just whisk this all together. In a large bowl, I'm going to take 1.5 cups of water, and I am using filtered water because my tap water doesn't taste very good. And then I want to add 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar, or you could use the white distilled vinegar. And the vinegar is going to react with the baking soda. Or if you do want to use buttermilk, then just use buttermilk and don't use the vinegar. And now we'll take our dry mixture here and we'll put about half of it in. Give it a good mix. Now I will add some more of that dry mixture, dry ingredients. I'll switch to a silicone spoon, or you can use a wooden spoon, of course. Just keep stirring. So we'll just keep stirring this together. We don't want to overwork the dough a ton, but we do want to incorporate this flour. And I'm not going to add it all in. I'm going to leave about that much left. Okay, and then when it comes together like this, we will just pour it out onto the surface. And then let's knead this dough together. Just for about 2 to 3 minutes. That's why I don't want to dump all that in there, because it may not incorporate it all. So that's why I leave some of that left over. And when it gets sticky, just add a little bit more of that flour that we have here in this bowl, just a tiny bit. It looks like it's a couple tablespoons, maybe 1/4 of a cup left. So you may or may not have some flour dry mixture left, just depends. Every dough turns out a little bit different. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to pat it down into a disc about 1.5 inches tall. And I want to move this over to my sheet pan lined with a piece of parchment paper. And then I want to take a knife and just draw an X in there, or you could do like the hashtag. Cut a nice little X in there. Now we bake it in the oven, middle rack position, for about 30 to 40 minutes until it'll raise a bit and it'll get nice and golden brown on the top. And when you poke it in the middle with like a toothpick or a wooden skewer, it'll come out clean. And if you want to, at the 15-minute mark, you can baste it, the top of it, with some butter or some milk if you like, and that'll soften up the top and add a little bit of color as well. And when it comes out of the oven, it'll look something like this. It almost kind of reminds me of a giant American biscuit, but it does taste a little different than a biscuit, kind of in between a biscuit and a traditional piece of bread. You're going to let it cool for a little bit, and then we will slice into it. All right, time to cut into it and show you what it looks like. There's a nice crust on the outside. Pretty awesome. Oh yeah. And look at that. So awesome. And what I like to do is I'll come in here with a little bit of butter. Oh yeah, butter, butter, butter. Get some butter on there. And then I'll come in here with some honey and put a little bit of honey on there as well. Of course, you can just leave the butter on there. You can put all kinds of things on there, jams, jellies, meats and cheeses, whatever you like to do. There we go, easy soda bread. Next up, we have banana bread. This is one of my all-time favorite quick breads. It's so yummy, super easy to make as well. Oh yeah. I have a small bowl here with 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 Celsius. I'm going to come in here and just give that a good whisk. Perfect. I have a large bowl with 1/2 cup of softened room temperature butter. If you forget to take the butter out of the fridge, you can put it in the microwave on defrost mode for about a minute and soften it up. I'm gonna add 1 cup of sugar. And now let's cream these two ingredients together with a hand mixer, or you could use a fork or a wooden spoon. Let's add in our 2 eggs and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then we'll give this a mix. All right, and then I'll scrape the sides with the spatula. And now I'm going to add my sour cream, 1/2 cup of sour cream. The sour cream is optional. I add it because it gives a nice moistness to the banana bread. Now let's mix this together. So scrape the sides one more time. And now you want really ripe bananas. They could even be riper than this. This is still really ripe, but it could be all dark on the sides. It's still really soft. And then we want to just remove the peels. And what you can do is if you buy a lot of bananas and they go bad, or they get really ripe, you can just freeze them that way and then thaw them out and make banana bread. All right, and once you have them all peeled, you just need to mash them up. And you can come in here with a fork and just mash them that way. Or a lot of times I'll come in here with my meat tenderizer and just smash them down. Because it just works really quick and easy with the meat tenderizer. But there's a variety of ways that you can mash up these bananas. You can add an additional banana, so 4 bananas if you like. It also depends on the size. These were 3 medium bananas. And let's just put this banana, smashed banana in there. Great. And we'll give it a mix. Just until incorporated. And then I want to add my flour mixture in there, dry ingredients, and I'm going to do some cinnamon. You can just mix that cinnamon in with the dry ingredients. It is an optional ingredient, the cinnamon, but I love adding a little bit of cinnamon. Let's mix this up. And we'll give the sides a good scrape. And at this point, I'm going to just remove the beaters. And then I'm going to just blend the rest of it in with this spatula. That way I don't over mix it. But there we go, that's a nice banana bread batter. It looks just awesome. And now I have a bread pan here. This is a 5 by 9 inch bread pan. And I just put some vegetable shortening in there and then some flour and just tapped it all around. You could just spray it with kitchen spray. Sometimes it still sticks, so I go a little overboard just to make sure that my banana bread doesn't stick inside the pan. And now let's pour the banana bread batter in there. Getting it all out of the bowl. And we'll just come in here and just smooth it out. And now we'll bake it in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 176 Celsius, and we'll bake it for 45 to 50 minutes until when you poke it with a toothpick, it comes out clean. On to that step. And when it comes out of the oven, it'll look something like this, nice and golden brown on the top. And just keep an eye on it. It could take up to an hour to get fully baked. Now we're just gonna let it sit and cool completely just right here in the pan. It'll take about 20 to 30 minutes. And once the banana bread has cooled, I'm just gonna run my cake spatula. You could just use a butter knife. Just go around the edges. It's already pretty loose. And then we will turn the bread over onto our cutting board. Look at that, didn't stick at all, looks amazing. And I'll go ahead and cut up a slice. Oh yeah. Yeah. And look at that. Nice and soft and moist. Oh yeah. Next we have Nutella bread. If you're a fan of quick breads and you love Nutella, you're gonna love this bread. Begin by preheating the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour here, and I'm gonna add in 1/3 cup of white granulated sugar, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. And we will give that a good whisk. And I'm going to set the whisk aside. We won't use that any longer because the batter gets really, really thick and sticky. The whisk just doesn't really work that well. And then I have 1 1/3 cups of whole milk, but you can use 2%, 1% skim milk, or even almond milk, soy milk. And I'm just going to give this a stir. Use a sturdy spoon, like a wooden spoon or a sturdy silicone spoon to do this. And we'll just mix this all in. Make sure to scrape the sides of the bowl as needed. All right, and once it's nice and mixed in, then it's time to add in the star of the dish, the Nutella. And this is 2/3 of a cup of Nutella. Super awesome. We will just add it all in there, all at once. And then we'll just mix that right in there. All right, just like that. Super easy. The batter is ready to go. And now I have a 5x9-inch bread loaf pan, and I've sprayed it with kitchen spray. You could also use like shortening and put it on the sides and the bottom and flour it if you like. And if you want your bread to be thinner and fatter and rise taller, then use a 4x8 pan. And now let's scrape this all in there. All right. And then a common thing to do with these types of quick breads is to take like a butter knife and just kind of do a slit right down the middle. It's not necessary at all. Sometimes it just kind of helps with the baking process. Now we bake this in the oven, 325 Fahrenheit, that's 162 Celsius, for 60 to 70 minutes until when you poke it with a long toothpick or like a wooden skewer, it comes out clean. On to that step. And then when it comes out of the oven, it'll look something like this. Again, it's done when you poke it in the middle with a wooden skewer and it comes out clean, okay? Or a long toothpick. And let it cool in the pan for about 10 minutes. And then we're going to transfer it to a wire rack and let it cool the rest of the way for another 15 to 20 minutes. And once the Nutella bread is cool, we can cut into it. And grab the loaf here. Yeah. Grab my bread knife and we'll give it a slice. Oh yeah. Look at that. So amazing. Time for me to dive into this. Oh yeah. Number 7, pumpkin bread. Oh, I love pumpkin bread. It's soft and moist and just so delicious. If you're a fan of pumpkin, check this recipe out. First, let's go ahead and preheat our oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And now let's go ahead and mix in our dry ingredients. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So that's 6 different little dry ingredients to add to your flour. Let's go ahead and take a whisk, or you could just sift this all together if you want. And these are very, very common. Those spices, the nutmeg and the ground cloves and cinnamon are very, very common for pumpkin dishes, pumpkin pie. Okay, that's good enough. And now we'll take a large bowl and we are gonna add in our 3/4 cups of softened, unsalted butter. If you're here in the States, it's just 1.5 sticks. All right, and then we were gonna add our 2 cups of sugar in with our butter. And now using a mixer, hand mixer, or if you have a stand mixer, go ahead and use that. Let's go ahead and cream together the butter with the sugar. Okay, it'll look something like this. Might be a little more crumbly, depending on how soft your butter was. Now let's go ahead and add in our eggs, one at a time. These are 2 large eggs. Just until combined. Let's go ahead and scrape the sides. Great. Add in our other egg. Just until combined. We don't want to overmix. Scrape the sides. Fantastic. Go ahead and add in our pumpkin, pure pumpkin. This is 15 ounces. I believe it's 425 grams. Go ahead and mix it on low. All right, there we go. It'll look something like this. Just go ahead and do a quick scrape of the sides. And now let's go ahead and incorporate our dry ingredients. And I'm just gonna do it about a half at a time. quick scrape of the sides. Smells great. And then the rest of the flour. Now we're just gonna do it on low speed. And then at this point, scrape those sides. Whoops. Bread batter is looking great. Until it looks like that. Perfect. Now, what we do is we go ahead and take 2 4x8 pans, and then I greased it with shortening and then just did some flour on the sides like you would do with a cake pan. And if you don't have shortening, you could use kitchen spray or butter. Just go ahead, and we want to put equal amounts in both of these, making sure to get all of that nice batter out of the bowl. Okay, and then just come in here, level it out. All right, so they look like that, nice and full. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna bake these in the oven, again at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're gonna bake them for 65 to 75 minutes until when you poke it with a toothpick, it comes out clean. On to that step. And then when they come out of the oven, they'll look something like this. Go ahead and leave them in the pan for about 10 minutes. And then what we will do is we will go ahead and take them out of their pans. And let's just go ahead and let these cool completely before cutting into them. All right, our pumpkin bread has cooled. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut into this and show you what it looks like. Oh yeah, look at that. Amazing. Next up, zucchini bread. This is the best way to eat zucchini, in my opinion. Really easy to do, super tasty. I have 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour or plain flour. I want to add 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, and you could reduce that to 1 teaspoon if you wanted. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Come in here with a whisk, and let's whisk this all together. And you could use a sifter as well. Great. And now in a large bowl, we'll add in our egg. And you'll notice I'm just going to be using a whisk for this process. A lot of times I'll use a hand mixer, but some people don't actually have a hand mixer, so I just want to show you that you can make this with just good old-fashioned hand power. All right, so to that egg, we will add 1/2 cup of oil, just vegetable oil, canola oil, olive oil, coconut oil, 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 cup of white granulated sugar. Give that a mix. You can burn a few calories doing it by hand instead of using a hand mixer. And then let's add in 1/3 cup of sour cream. And that is 1/3 cup of sour cream. All right, once that is done, we will add in the flour, just about half of this at a time. And I am using a wire whisk because it is more sturdy than my silicone whisk. But again, you can just use a hand mixer or stand mixer. I do that normally, but I just wanted to show you that you can make it with a whisk or like a wooden spoon. One nice thing about using the whisk is it makes it harder to overmix the batter. Scrape the sides. All right, excellent. And now we want to fold in our nuts, I'm using a half a cup of chopped pecans, but you can also use walnuts if you want. And then the star of the dish, the zucchini. And this is 1 cup of grated zucchini. About 1 medium zucchini makes a little bit over a cup of grated zucchini. And you'll notice I didn't peel it first. I don't mind having the peel, but if you don't want that dark green peel showing, then you can peel the zucchini first. And we'll just fold this all together. And if you were using a hand mixer or a stand mixer, you want to do this part by hand, okay? So don't use the mixer with the zucchini and the nuts. All right. Doesn't it look amazing? Fantastic. All right. I have this 4x8 bread pan, and you'll notice that I greased it with shortening, and then I put in about a tablespoon of flour, and I just tapped it all around the sides of the pan. Now this is going to make it so the bread does not stick to it. You can spray it with kitchen spray and do the same thing with the flour, or just spray it with kitchen spray and not do the flour. I like to err on the side of caution because I don't like it when my cakes and breads stick to the pan. All right, let's just pour this in here. Make sure we scrape all of it out. And we'll bake it in a preheated oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit or 162 Celsius. And we'll bake it for 55 to 65 minutes until when you poke it with a toothpick, it comes out clean. And when it comes out of the oven, we'll just let it sit for 10 minutes or so in the pan so where it can cool a little bit. And then we'll come in here with a cake spatula, just go around the edges a little bit just to make sure that it's loose. Great. And then we'll just flip it over onto a wire rack so it can cool the rest of the way. Came right out of there, really nice. Look at that, pretty awesome, right? And you'll look in the pan and there's nothing stuck to the bottom of the pan or anything. Really cool. And you can smell it, you can smell that zucchini. Oh, smells so good. And after it cools, just come on in and cut into it. Yeah, look at that. You can see the green from the zucchini and the nuts. Oh yeah. Nice and moist. Number 9, combine 2 of my favorites and make chocolate banana bread. Oh, this is such a good tasting bread. If you love chocolate, you love bananas, try this recipe. So to begin, I'm going to work with the dry ingredients. And I have 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and then in a sifter, I'm going to add the 1/3 cup of cocoa powder. You definitely want to use some kind of a sifter or sieve because cocoa powder is prone to like clumping. And then if you see in there, there's a bunch of clumps. I'm just going to use the back of my knuckles and just kind of push those clumps around and break those up a little bit. Okay. And then with a whisk, I'm going to just come in here and whisk it all together. You also could just throw all those ingredients in the sifter to begin with, if you wanted to. And those are the dry ingredients. I'm going to set that aside. In a large bowl, I have 1/2 cup of softened butter. It could be melted as well. And if you don't want to use butter, you can use oil instead, like vegetable oil, canola oil, coconut oil, 3/4 cup of sugar, white granulated sugar, and then with a mixer, or you could use your whisk, I'm gonna cream these together. Great. And now I will add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then 2 large eggs. And then give this a good mix. And then scrape the sides of the bowl. And then at this point, I'm gonna add the sour cream. And the sour cream is commonly added to breads and cakes to make them more moist. You don't have to add it if you don't want to, but I like to add it. Give it a mix. All right, excellent. And then I have 3 medium to large, really ripe bananas. And now we want to mash these up, okay? So I'll just peel these. Really nice, ripe bananas. And then I'm just gonna come in here with a fork, and you can use like a potato masher too. Sometimes I'll do that. Okay, nice. And then I'll take my batter back over here, and I'll just squish that in there. And put those mashed bananas right in that bowl. And then at this point, I'm just gonna stir those bananas in there really well. And now let's start adding the dry ingredients, about 1/3 of it at a time. And I'm just going to stir this in. You can mix it. I just don't want to over mix it. So just be careful about over mixing. Okay, do some more. Come back in here. Scrape those sides down. Put the rest of that in there. Okay. Also preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 Celsius. All right, I'm gonna be done with the mixer here and do the rest by hand. All right, yeah. And now that chocolate banana bread is ready to go. And then to finish it off, I have 1 cup of milk chocolate chips. You can use semi-sweet or dark. And I'm gonna only put in about 1/2 cup. And I'm gonna fold that in the batter. And then I have a 5x9-inch bread pan, and I sprayed the sides and the bottom, and I put a piece of parchment paper on the bottom. I really just don't want the bottom to stick at all to the pan. You could also flour, use shortening and flour the whole thing as well. A variety of ways that you can do this. And we will pour that in there. I'm just gonna wiggle it a little bit. And now with the rest of these chocolate chips, I'm going to sprinkle them on the top here, kind of evenly. And now, put this in the oven, again, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 176 Celsius, and bake it for 50 minutes to an hour, to when you poke it with a toothpick, the toothpick comes out clean. On to that step. And when it comes out of the oven, it'll look something like this. Allow it to cool completely in the pan, and then we can cut into it. And once it has time to cool, I'm just going to take a spatula, cake spatula here, just go along the edges, just to make sure that it's not stuck to the pan. And then I'm going to remove it. from the pan there. And take off that parchment paper. And there we go. Yeah, look at that. Pretty awesome. And we'll cut into it. And there we have it. That's what it looks like on the inside. So good. And finally, number 10, peanut butter bread. This is a Depression era bread when fresh ingredients weren't as readily available, and these ingredients were things that you can just find in your pantry and throw it together. Really easy to do, and this bread is super tasty. If you like peanut butter and you like bread, give this one a try. And so begin by preheating the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like 162 Celsius. And I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour here. And I'm gonna add in 4 teaspoons of baking powder. That's 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon. Put that in there. And then 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 cup of white granulated sugar. And then once we have those ingredients in there, I'm just gonna give this a good whisk. And this dough or this batter comes together super quick within 5 minutes. And then so you could have it in the oven within 5 to 10 minutes. The bread is in the oven and baking. Pretty awesome. And then we're gonna add milk. This is 1 1/3 cups of milk. I'm using whole milk, but you could use 2%, 1%. And if you are lactose intolerant, then just switch it out for almond milk. Almond milk will work great as well. So just pour it all in there. All at once. I'm not gonna use the whisk anymore because it's gonna get too thick for the whisk, so I'm gonna put the whisk away. And then I have just a silicone spoon, but you can use a wooden spoon, and we will just mix this in. And then when it comes together, it's gonna be like a thick, kind of a paste. See that? And now, let's just add in the star of the dish, which is peanut butter. And this is 2/3 of a cup of peanut butter. And you can use all natural peanut butter if you want. Homemade peanut butter, I have a recipe here on my channel for homemade peanut butter. You can use that. Or just use this like normal store brand peanut butter. And we're gonna mix it in. And it'll be fairly thick. Again, another reason why that whisk won't work. Just mix that peanut butter in. Give your arm a good workout here. Okay. So we got it all mixed in like that. It's gonna be like a really, really thick kind of paste texture, consistency. And that's exactly what we want it to be like, okay? And now, I have a 5x9 inch bread pan, and then I sprayed the inside with cooking spray. And then, let's get this in here. And you could use a 4x8 pan as well. The bread will just be a lot taller than it will be in this pan. And I'm just going to kind of push this down a little bit. Spread it out a little evenly. And then a common practice would be to come in here with like a butter knife and just kind of go down the middle with it. Like a little slice there. And now into the oven it goes, once again 325 Fahrenheit or 162 Celsius. And we bake it for 60 to 70 minutes until when you poke it with a toothpick comes out clean. On to that step. And when it comes out of the oven, it'll look something like this. And you can take a long toothpick or like a wooden skewer and check it in the middle. And as long as it comes out clean, it is done. And just let it sit and cool in the pan for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then remove it from the pan and place it on a wire rack to cool completely. And once the bread has had time to cool, we can cut into it. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's a nice little crust on the outside and a nice and soft on the inside. Look at that crumb. Nice and soft. It's a little dense, but soft. And it's just an amazing bread that is homemade peanut butter bread. Only takes 6 ingredients. Time for me to dive into this. So yeah, yummy, yummy, yummy. So good. Well, there you have it. 10 easy quick bread recipes. Drop a comment down below and let me know which one is your favorite. I'm Matt Taylor. This has been another episode of In the Kitchen with Matt. Thank you for joining me. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or requests, put them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thumbs up, down the corner, push it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos. Take care.